Next up in the phase, still in chapter 7, talking about maintaining. The next two things we'll be touching on are techniques and rules for resisting falling asleep and techniques against false awakenings. So first up, the resisting falling asleep. So this is essentially where you lose your lucidity or conscious awareness, but you still remain within the dream, right? So it goes from a lucid dream back into a regular dream. And really all this stuff, even for the false awakening things, it really just breaks down into doing basic, lucid dreaming reality checks, which I'm sure the majority of people watching this will already be, well aware of. So this will probably be a pretty quick video. But first up, resisting falling asleep. So periodic awareness or periodic analysis of awareness. So basically, periodically asking the question, am I dreaming? Like the most classic reality check technique there. This next one here is interesting. So be an observer. There is another important rule related to resisting falling asleep. No practitioner should engage or participate in spontaneous events occurring in the phase. Events that are not planned or deliberate lead to a high probability of being immersed in the side action, which results in a loss of concentrated awareness, right? So just be careful of following the dream narrative too much. It's a good way to get wrapped back up in the narrative of what's going on and lose your lucidity. One way that I kind of like to maintain my lucidity, which I might also call sometimes, and I might have actually called it this in previous videos, like kind of being an observer, where I'll watch what's going on within the dream, but I'm specifically trying to watch it from like one step removal, where I'm trying to remember it to dream journal or something later on. And so like kind of looking at it from that point, just kind of thinking, okay, I want to remember this to write out later. That does work pretty good for me at actually keeping me within the dream and keeping me lucid. And then moving on to techniques against false awakenings. So you can, like, if you happen to see text somewhere, you can read it, look away, look back and try to read it again and see if it changed or is hard to read. Super classic reality check technique there. He also recommends like inspecting the tip of your finger really closely, because your hand should always be with you, at least most of the time, within your phase or dream experiences. And if you look at it really closely like that, that has a tendency to kind of break down a dream. It sounds similar to the peering thing that he was referencing earlier, but in peering, you're staying very active and kind of like looking over the different intricate details of it. This, like, just staring one is you kind of just look at it right there and you don't really try to search it too much for, details. You just really try to stare at that object stilly and closely. And that does work pretty good at actually breaking the dream down and waking your ass up. And then just a few other ones, again, all in the reality check realm here. If it happens to be, where you live, there's like noticeable changes in seasons, which it is not like that over here in Hawaii. But, if it's supposed to be, during the summer and you look outside and it's snowing, well, then you can know you had a false awakening and you are indeed still within the dreaming space. Also, if you tend to have a false awakening, this is probably the best one here. So if you have a false awakening, normally you false awaken into your bedroom, right? As opposed to, kind of false awakening into a whole separate dream environment, which tends to be what happens to me the most, right? I think I'm within a dream, I'm lucid or whatever. I feel like the dream ended and I don't realize that, hey, I'm just in a totally different dream environment, like at school or at work or something like that. But and if you do wake up and you have this experience of being in your bedroom, well, then scan the bedroom to see if everything is exactly like it should be. Is the table where it's supposed to be? Is the bed in a different position? So little clues like that can clue you in that you did, that you did not in fact totally wake up and you are still within the phase or dream experience. Anyway, that'll wrap it up. Next up, we'll be going over the general rules for maintaining. And the last thing we'll be covering in chapter 7, these are the general rules for maintaining or staying within the phase or lucid dream experience that you are currently in. So first up, having a plan of action. First, the practitioner must not pause in the phase to think about what to do next, which frequently results in a foul. Second, having a plan. The practitioner will subconsciously perform all of the actions necessary for staying in and maintaining the phase to carry out all the tasks that have been planned. Third, intelligent and pre-planned actions permit focused advancement of purposeful actions versus wasting phase experiences on whatever comes to mind at a given moment. Fourth, a plan of action creates necessary motivation and consequently pronounced intent to perform the techniques to enter the phase. Okay, next up, re-entering. So always remember that a typical phase experience consists of several repeated entries and exits, right? Which is similar to what I've referred to in the past as my modified wake back to bed technique, where you wake up out of a dream, whether it's lucid or not, you try to immediately fall back asleep, hopefully enter back into REM and not into one of the earlier stages of sleep. And then, you can just keep your lucid dream or phase experience going there. And actually just yesterday, I was messaging with someone in the community and she pointed out an acronym to me that I wasn't aware of. Although once I read the acronym, I basically knew what it was talking about. I thought she had a typo at first, where the acronym is DEILD, Dream Exit Induced Lucid Dreaming. So yeah, basically the same thing as my modified wake back to bed technique. Constant activity, the more actions performed, the longer the phase is. It is enough to pause for thought and everything stops, which is true. Stopping the internal dialogue. The less internal dialogue and reflection that occurs in the phase, the longer it lasts. For example, thinking about the physical body can cause you to return to it. But I've also had this work for me in a good way. Well, I'll think about, I guess I wasn't so much thinking about my body. I was thinking I wanted to see my body. And then once that thought passed my mind, I appeared at the front door of my bedroom, walked inside, saw my body there, and all that kind of cool stuff. The practitioner may also get lost in thought, which will lead to a foul. Also, sporadic thoughts usually and quite easily cause the practitioner to simply fall asleep, which is AKA lose your lucidity or your conscious awareness and have it just turn into a regular old dream. And then the last one here, intention. Sometimes the mere intention of having a long-lasting phase is enough, and no maintaining procedures are necessary. With that said, that wraps it up. Until the next video, keep your phase practice legit.